David Warner is often too loud to listen to anyone else, but he did when this man talked to him. Virender Sehwag is one of the fastest scoring players ever. And of all the franchises in all the leagues, David Warner had to walk into his. At that point, Warner was the guy who slogged Steyn back over his head, was getting deals on double-sided T20 bats, and had not really played red ball cricket. But in Sehwag, Warner found more than just another eager T20 hitter. He had his fast-scoring Yoda. Sehwag told Warner that he would be a better test cricketer than a T20 hitter at a time when the cack-hander had not even played a first-class game. Guru saw the future as well as he did the ball. And remember, a Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and attack, never for defense. Sehwag was right to see Warner as a test player. However, even in his last red ball innings, there was still an element of that T20 guy. Pakistan opened the bowling with off-spinner Sajid Khan, who'd already dismissed Usman Khawaja. Warner reverse swept him away for a boundary and finished with a memorable 57 in his final outing in whites. The spirit of the play of the double-sided bat was strong in this one. And so Warner started as a T20 hitter, but along the way he conquered both ODI and Test cricket. And perhaps that is the most boring way of putting a cricketer who lived his life very loud. He was a cricketer with the volume turned all the way up. David Warner screamed in all three formats of the game. And while it is very hard to look beyond the drama of his very existence and the loudness of each and every single moment, what about the cricket? Because there are some factors that suggest he may not have been the best opener in any of the three formats. But was there a better opener in all three? What I'm asking is, was Warner the greatest all-format modern-day opener in cricket?
So if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your Nord VPN plan plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a cricketer protects its nether region with NordVPN today.
Warner ended up finishing 5th on the all-time list of run getters for Australia in tests. And considering the players that Australia had, that's pretty impressive. And an incredible career for a man who really got his shot on an Australian A tour of Zimbabwe and announced himself properly by ending Vinay Kumar's test career in basically a ball during his first test 100. His 5-day and 50-over careers are now over, although he's still available if Australia need him for the Champions Trophy, because everyone retires using installments now. He's available for Australia's T20 World Cup and also will continue to play franchise T20. His retirement plan, like most things with David Warner, did actually annoy a lot of people, especially due to his test form. But when you think about the entire career of David Warner, including his achievements, it does stack up fairly nicely. Warner scored a crucial 43 against India in the first innings of the World Test Championship final. Even though he was out in the first session, his innings actually helped set the tone for what followed later in the day with the Head-Smith partnership. But more importantly, Australia went on to win the title. This meant that Warner was a founding member of the most elite club in cricket, players who've won ICC trophies in all three formats. And 5 months after that, the same group would go on to win the World Cup in India again. Australia currently holds the dual crowns, one in red and one in white ball cricket. And they're also only once removed from a T20 World Cup victory as well. That is a lot of trophies for one player. But let's start with him in tests. David Warner is the fastest opening batter of his era. Markram and Dhawan come pretty close, but they have about half the runs combined between the two of them. Rohit actually hits a lot of sixes, but quite often he will play very defensive as well. There is just no doubt that Warner is alone in his era as a fast scorer at the top. And what about the all-time list? He's only behind his Delhi teammates Sehwag and Tilakaratne Dilshan. And this isn't for all players, as we don't have ball by ball for everyone. So we certainly don't know, let's say, Victor Trumpet's record. But I think we can safely say that Warner is the 3rd fastest opener in Test match cricket ever. He is significantly quicker than the global strike rate of 48.19 for openers during his era. And in fact, in the games that he plays, the strike rate is 47.25. And those are normal strike rates for opening batters. It's Warner who is the outlier. Now, of course, strike rates in Test cricket are a little bit muddled. In the end, it is about how many and not how fast. But an opener who scores really quick, like around the 80 mark, is perhaps the most important fast scorer, because all the plans and hopes that the bowling team had when they walked down on the field have now been lit on fire. Warner would effortlessly score fast by punching the ball and running around like a jackrabbit. He made you think about the boundary and the ring fielders at the same time. And there is an argument that the greatest teams of all times have had attacking openers, partly because they are the ultimate disruptors. Gordon Greenwich from the Great West Indies team, Hayden for Australia, Sehwag for India, and Warner follows on from that. He also has the third best average for an opener in his era, only behind his opening partner Khawaja and Rohit. But they started opening regularly when they were fully formed players. Australia threw Warner in when he wasn't really even a first-class player, let alone a full-time opener. And he had to play in that spot pre and post-peak. But he does average 12 more than the rest of the openers in his matches and his era. But to be fair, it hasn't been a great one for openers, partly because the wobble ball destroyed so many careers. And even when compared to the top 6 batters of his generation, he is 25% better than the global batting average and 15% better for the matches he played in. And Warner made a lot of runs through 2 very different eras. And he has the 4th most runs at home and the 7th best average. Only Hayden has a better record as an opener, and he played in a great batting era and also only for a short period of time compared to Warner. However, there is one giant caveat with Warner's test career. He has the 4th lowest average for openers with 1,000 runs on the road. But none of the batters in the top 3 here have played more than 31 innings in this era. But Karunaratne, Cook, Brathwaite, Latham, Elgar and Rahul have all batted well over 50 times. And from that list, only Elgar has a lower average on the road. So when we look at it by country, it makes a lot more sense. Apart from Australia, Warner has been terrific in South Africa, the UAE and Bangladesh. But those records in those last 2 are from only 2 matches each. Clearly, he's one of the best batters ever against pace and bounce. His record at home in South Africa completely justifies that. But he does struggle against the conventional moving ball in England and New Zealand. In fact, we devised a metric called match ratio to look at how his record stands up against other top 6 players who played in the same match. The idea is to account for pitch conditions instead of making conclusions based just on raw averages. And away from home, he has a plus record in 3 countries and a -1 in 6. And there's all these weird little things like Warner is a great player of left-arm finger spin, which might be why he was so successful in the UAE and Bangladesh. But he's terrible against Ravi Jadeja. And we know that Sir Ravi is a very good left-arm finger spinner against those who bat goofy-footed. And quite clearly, when Warner was in India, he had to come up against one of the greatest killers of left-handers that has ever existed, and a slow left-arm orthodox who was actually quite fast and very good against southpaws. But it's not just India he struggles, it's almost everywhere. So Warner is not the king of modern-day test openers. With his body of work and record, certain conditions, he has a solid case for being one of the best players, even despite his away record. Because Elgar and Latham also struggle away from home. Rohit hasn't even opened for 5 years compared to Warner's 13. And Karunaratne and Brathwaite are not quite in his class. And Rahul and Markram both average in the mid-30s. So that basically leaves us with Alistair Cook. He wasn't perfect, but his away record has far fewer shortcomings than Warner's. When we compare just their overall marks, Cook had the tougher conditions at home and was a lot more value away. Also, the England captain was excellent against spin and pretty impressive against the moving ball as well. However, he averaged under 32 in New Zealand and South Africa, which is a weird anomaly. Since Cook played the first half of his career in a different era from Warner, it's only fair that we gauge Cook's relative performances by that same match ratio. So away from home, he has a plus record in every single country apart from New Zealand and South Africa. And the second half of Cook's career coincided with the first of Warner's. But the England opener did actually finish his career before the wobble ball pace pandemic actually started to take over. But there is no way that you can make a claim that Warner is definitively better than Cook, even when factoring in the strike rate. But what about ODI cricket? Warner has the 5th best batting average with the 3rd best strike rate for any opener in his era. His numbers are basically similar to Quinton de Kock, who is a fine ODI player himself. Though the general consensus would probably be that Warner has had a lot more impact, despite their close numbers. And one reason for that is just, the World Cups. Warner has been a star in 2 ODI World Cup victories for Australia. Only Rohit has more runs and a better average and strike rate in the last 3 tournaments. And I think you can make the case that either of these are in the conversation for best in 50 overs. And now, what about that thing that dragged him to Delhi all those years ago? T20. Warner's IPL record is actually kind of ridiculous, if we're being honest. He has the 3rd best strike rate, the 2nd best average, and the 3rd most runs in history. Not bad for an overseas player. He carried a dysfunctional Sunrisers batting lineup for years and did not have the luxury of playing at home on a very good pitch. However, look at who is ahead of him regarding strike rate. Chris Gayle. and another time that we have a look at the best players and there is someone else right there with him. Of course, it's not just his IPL form as well. In 2021, when the Sunrisers actually got rid of him and he was coming back from Sandpaper Gate, people thought perhaps he was past his best. How did he respond to that? Well, he was player of the tournament in Australia's first men's T20 World Cup title, stepping up in both the semi as well as the final. So franchise and internationals, he is right up there in T20. ODI, he's in the conversation, and Test cricket, he's not far off as well. So that leaves him as the most obvious choice as the greatest all-format modern opener. But Gale and Rohit are certainly in that conversation as well. However, Warner is the third quickest Test opener, the second best opener in the last 3 World Cups, and the third quickest in the IPL batters of all time. That's a pretty good resume. And if he's not the one, then at the very least, he has a lot to say in his favour. He forced his way here in the same way he did into that Delhi side originally and the Australian Test team, just by sheer force of will. In 2018, I worked with Warner, and so I have seen all sides. And let's be honest, there are a lot to choose from. The brash youngster that they called the Bull, the Reverend rebrand that never quite worked, the disgraced father over Sandpaper Gate, the aggrieved husband, and the man on the comeback. He howled like a dog at South Africans, was blocked on socials by the franchise he won an IPL for, threw a punch at Joe Root, got involved with Faf du Plessis in a towel, went viral on socials many times, and asked us how good are turtles, and ended his career in Test matches by shushing Mitch Johnson. Warner always makes an impact. Dale Steyn and Virender Sehwag were just the first 2 guys to see that, but we've all felt it ever since. In fact, Davey and Viru should be looked at in the same line. You can quibble with parts of their games, and maybe others did some things slightly better. But these 2 guys, they were entertainers. And as we've shown earlier, you could certainly make a case that Warner might be the greatest all-format opener ever. But maybe his legacy is more one of entertainment. Someone who brought us violence and farce, and schadenfreude, and fireworks and laughter. We were entertained in the IPL, World Cups and Test cricket. He was must-watch on and off the field. The best all-formats opener? Perhaps. A great real-life soap opera? Definitely. Like when he made that 100 at the Wacker against India, he told Eddie Cowan at the time that they had a new bowler coming on, Vinay Kumar, and they should have a good look at him before going for him. Vinay's second ball to Warner was a full ball around off stump. Warner lofted it into the stands. Cowan came down the wicket and said, "What are you doing?" Warner said, "It was in my wheelhouse." David Warner played cricket his way. Loud.
A lot of people complain that I'm not a former cricketer, and so that I don't really know the game. Well, you know what they can't claim? That I don't know desks. I've been using desks for years. I'm a collector of desks, old and new, and I'm sitting on a new one right now. I'm the Don Bradman of sitting at desks. So when I tell you that the E7 Pro next generation height adjustable desk from Flexispot is legit, this is like Michael Jordan talking to you about sneakers. This desk holds 160 kilograms. It is as stable as anything I've ever seen, and it has under-desk cable management. But really, the main skill here is that this desk rises and falls at the push of a button, and it moves super quick. And it has so many settings that remember your favorite heights. It really does it all. And I could not recommend the E7 Pro from Flexispot anymore, even though I am currently sitting on one of Flexispot's BS12 Pro multifunctional, adjustable, upgraded fabric, ergonomic chairs. My butt and computer have never been happier than when using one of Flexispot's products. So get over to their page right now for big savings.